50 Shades of Mom, and today I decided I would like to share a really simple and easy but very flavorful recipe that I found on Pinterest called French onion chicken. So this summer I've been trying to encourage myself at least once or twice a week to try something different, and I found this French onion chicken recipe inspired from a French onion soup, and it's so delicious and it's so easy. It's definitely going to become a tried and true. So let me show you guys what you're going to need, and I will put the recipe in the description box as well as the link to Pinterest for you to see right from the mothertime.com website where I got this from on Pinterest. So you're going to need a couple of tablespoons of flour, 2 cups of beef broth, you're going to need olive oil, 2 teaspoons of balsamic glaze or vinegar, thyme, salt, pepper, onions, and chicken. You're also going to need Swiss cheese. I'm actually using mozzarella. That just happens to be what I have on hand, and I can only really get my boys to eat Swiss cheese when I'm making Monte Cristo sandwiches. So I'm going to set this up on the tripod. I'm going to get some olive oil getting warm in the bottom of this pan, and then we're going to start by getting the onions in. Okay guys, we got a nice piping hot pan here. Now this is the only step that takes a fairly long time, because the key to French onion soup obviously is the quality of nice caramelized onions. So getting a really good caramelized to onions probably takes a good 15-20 minutes. So I'm going to put these onions in here. I'm going to give them a good salt and a good toss underneath the oil, and then I'm going to stand and watch them. This is really the only time-consuming part. Once we're done caramelizing these onions, everything else really just zooms by. The chicken cooks really fast because it's cubed. A lot of things that are like this kind of recipe, I hate that they're usually big pieces of chicken, and those kind of things take some time. But the fact that this recipe calls for the pieces of chicken to be cubed, that part gets, and the glazing of the pan and making the gravy is super fast. So once we get through this hard part, the rest is going to zoom by. And now I found this because one of the ladies that I watch mentioned one day that she was going to make French onion soup. And I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. But there's no way I could get my boys to really eat French onion soup. They wouldn't do it. They like soup. I can get them to do soup like with sandwiches or something like that, but to really get them to sit down and eat like a nice hearty bowl of French onion soup, I just really couldn't get them to do that. But when I first made this, when you put the cheese on top and you stick it in the oven and it gets all bubbly, it really tastes just like a soup, and yet I don't have to worry about forcing them to eat it. So, alright, I've salted them good, I've tossed them good. I'm going to shut the camera off now. I'm going to let these cook down because they definitely are going to take some time. And then once they're good and caramelized, I'll come back and we'll work through the next couple of steps. Okay guys, so you can see that we got like a nice caramelization. That big old pile of onions wilted down to just this little bit. And the rest will still even reduce down even more when you add the rest of the ingredients. So we are going to add 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. I happen to really, really love this balsamic glaze that I got from Trader Joe's. I will continue to keep buying it. I love that. Obviously, you can just still continue to use, regular balsamic vinegar, but I'm in love with this glaze. It is so good. Alright, so that's going to caramelize these onions a little bit, and then once we just work this balsamic vinegar through, we're actually going to remove the onions from the pan, put them in a bowl and set them aside, and now we're going to throw a little bit more oil into this pan, and now we're going to saute the chicken. So once the chicken's all brown, you're going to end up putting that aside, and we throw the beef broth in. And that gets all the goodness up from the bottom of that pan. And then you add a little flour and make it good and thick, and then you throw all this stuff back in there, throw the cheese on top and melt it. So yummy. All right, so this is worked through. So I'm gonna get this out of the pan and into a bowl and get some oil back in here so that we can start cooking this chicken. Okay guys, so I took the onions out. That's them with all that yummy vinegar on there. I put oil back into the pan, and now here is our chicken. So I'm gonna put this in the pan, and then once I get this in here, we're always gonna salt and pepper, and then I'm gonna put some thyme on top of that. Now, I kind of think that the blog that this came from, or the website, she must do all recipes that cook with thyme, because the name of the website was Cooking Thyme, spelled THYME.com. So I thought that was really cute, little trendy way to put your twist on things. So there's the salt, some pepper, and some thyme. All right, so I'm gonna get this all tossed up and cooked down, and then I will bring you back when this is brown on all sides, and we'll take it out and we'll deglaze the pan with that beef broth and make some gravy. Okay guys, so the chicken is done, completely all browned. It's super tender. I've cut open a bunch of the big pieces just to make sure that it's all cooked. So I'm gonna get this out of the pan. And then what it's telling you to do is, like I said, is deglaze. So everything, all these little yummy chicken pieces that all stuck to the bottom, all the flavor, all the broth that the chicken made, we're just gonna stick this beef broth in here now, and we're gonna make it get all the stuff off the bottom. Oops, we forgot a little guy in here. Okay. All right, so when you do this, you always want to crank up the heat so that it literally boils what you're about to put in, and always step back because it will sizzle and kick, especially with olive oil in there. It didn't splatter too much on me. That's good. Alright, so I'm going to add this. I'm going to bring this to a boil. Once it boils, we're going to put 2 tablespoons of flour in here and mix it all up until the gravy gets. Okay guys, so we got a good bubble on it, and I reduced the heat. So now I'm going to use a whisk. And I'm going to whisk in 2 tablespoons of flour and just bring this up to a thickness. Now once this is thick and kind of a gravy kind of feel to it, you're going to add your onions, you're going to add your chicken, and then we're going to cover it with cheese, and we're going to stick it in the oven. You're going to stick the whole frying pan. So when you're starting to make this recipe, I suggest you use a frying pan that you don't mind just sticking right into the oven, because I stick this whole thing right in there. Just remember to use a pot holder when you take it out, because I have definitely just went and grabbed the handle. Not a cool thing. But once you get it in there and it gets all bubbly, then that's it. It's done. The recipe, obviously, again, that cookingthyme.com, it calls for you to sprinkle a little bit more thyme on top, but then that's it. Now, the recipe tells you to use a baguette and cut it and put this over it, because, again, it's supposed to symbolize that French onion soup feel. So they want you to put a piece of bread on the bottom and do exactly what you would do if it were a French onion soup. But obviously, you can do whatever kind of bottom that you want. I did mashed potatoes last time, very similar to that Mississippi chicken. When something makes a really yummy gravy like this, I love it over mashed potatoes. I am just a mashed potatoes and gravy kind of girl. So, all right, I'm gonna get this whisked up as much as I can. And I do see a little, it doesn't suggest that you make a roux, it suggests that you dump the flour right in. I don't like to do that because As you can see, it kind of stays a little clumpy. It will cook off, and it definitely will break up a little bit, but I'm one for dissolving flour in water first and then kind of pouring it in there. But I guess they don't really want any water in your recipe. So, all right, let's add back in these onions. I get those all stirred back in. Like, doesn't that look like soup? Ooh. Alright, so now that's in. Let me dump back in my chicken. And then I'm just going to give this a good toss around and cover it with cheese. And then we're going to stick it in the oven. Now, you can put it on broil if you want. The recipe says 350 degrees for 10 minutes until the cheese is bubbly. Last time I put it in for 5 minutes, and then I put it on broil so that I actually got that French onion brown topping to the cheese. So I'm going to let that keep bubbling. I'm going to cover this with cheese, and then we're going to stick it in the oven, and then we'll come back and check on it once everything is all plated up. So now it tells you now to put the Swiss cheese layered on top. Again, I'm using mozzarella. You can use whatever cheese you like. I know that a real recipe actually doesn't even call for Swiss cheese. Real French onion soup is made with provolone. So you could use provolone cheese if you'd like. You can use this kind of mozzarella, or you can use the Swiss cheese like the recipe calls for. But that is it. So I'm going to shut this oven off. I'm going to stick this inside, and we'll come back when it's out and bubbly. Okay guys, so this is what it looks like all plated up. It's like having a bowl of French onion soup right on top of a bed of mashed potatoes, and I just made some garlic and buttery broccoli on the side, and this is what we're having for dinner tonight. So I hope you guys liked this recipe. Give it a thumbs up for me. It's super easy and super delicious. So make sure you comment down below. Let me know if you have tried it, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Thanks everyone. Bye.